Okay, so vibratory tumblers, like we said before, create this similar tumbling action to a barrel tumbler. And the way it does that is really the shape of the tub, which you can't really see in the front here. But later on, if you want to come here and look up, you'll see that it's kind of a curved shape. And that curved shape is what helps to rotate the load around the center axis. If you were to run a stick through the middle here, it rotates around that center axis. But in addition to the tumbling action, you get this vibrating action, which creates more surface finishing to the part. Vibratory systems also come in anywhere from small bench model units like this. This is actually the vibratory machine. This is just a stand part of it. And they come in also bowl shapes. And this has a screen deck on it. And then these big tub shapes. These tub systems, I mean, they could be probably half a dozen of us could probably jump in there and we'd all fit. They come really big. The bowls will be a little bit different than the tubs. So the tubs, like I said, just rotate like this. The bowls will go into helical action. So they'll kind of rotate. It's hard to see in this picture, but that curved surface is on the bottom here. So they'll rotate this way, but then it'll also rotate around the bowl. So it kind of creates this circular motion around the bowl as well as tumbling this way. The nice things about that is that it helps to keep the parts separated. As Ty was saying before, with Vives, you typically want to fill them about 80 to 90% of capacity. It's the same kind of media to parts ratio as you would see with a barrel, but you can utilize more of the capacity of a Vive. The bowl shape, real quick, also does a nice job in keeping parts separated. Right? It's because everything's spinning around the circumference of the bowl, it'll do a better job in keeping the parts separated so that you can run sometimes larger parts or heavier parts, higher percentage of parts. The nice thing also about bowls is that an option is to put a screen deck on here. And so like I was saying before about the barrel tumblers, you got to basically dump the barrel out to separate the media from the parts. With this kind of a system, you can basically reach in and pull the parts out while the machine's running. When it's off, it's like a solid block of material. You can't put your hand in there. But like quicksand, you turn that vibration on and you can just easily stick your hand right in there and pull parts out. That's good for like large parts. But with large quantities of parts or large batch sizes, what happens is as this stuff is tumbling around this way, is there's a you can see this lever here. You lift this lever up and it lifts a ramp, which forces the load as it comes around up onto this screen deck. And assuming the media is smaller than the parts, that's the only way this is going to work, okay, is the media, you can kind of see the holes here, the media will fall back through the holes, back into the bowl, and the parts will come vibrating out of the machine. So it's an automated separation of media to parts. This can be a continuous process. We talked a little bit about that before, and I think on the next slide there's a machine that shows you what that looks like. Two ways that can be done. One is if you imagine this bowl thing, but then stretch it out so it looks like a racetrack. Okay, you could put the parts in here and it tumbles around the racetrack and then out the other side and comes out, and the media just stays in the racetrack the entire time. That's one way. You can generally get cycle times, depending on the size, up to about 20 minutes or so. So as long as your cycle time is less than 20 minutes, you're all good. The other way is to take, like Ty was explaining before, really long tubs. So you put the parts in this end, they tumble all the way to the other end, everything gets discharged out the door, okay? The parts go onto a screen or a magnetic separator or whatever the case may be, they get kind of conveyed away, and the media falls onto a conveyor, which conveys everything back up here and then drops it back into the front with the parts. And so that's another way to do a continuous kind of a process.
So, talked about the advantages of Vives. I'll be the killjoy and talk about the disadvantages. It's noisy. It's very noisy. This is a relatively simple sound dampening cover, but that's an actual true dampening cover. And in certain environments, you just need it. If it's in the middle of a shop and you have no other place, people are walking around, you can't hear over it at certain times. So it's very noisy. Also, it's a vibrator, and it can translate into the ground and cause some disruption to neighbors or stuff like that. You can put it on rubber mounts and do, isolation protection and stuff like that, but most people don't do that. They just piss off their neighbors, ultimately.
Question about that.
The large parts, one of the disadvantages of the bowls is you really can't put large parts in it, obviously. It just won't work. So that is really, really good. You can get a real big bowl to do a lot of little parts. You need a big tub to do a big part, obviously. So that could be a disadvantage at times. There is much more wear and tear on the machine. On a machine like this, it's just much more aggressive. There's so much more energy getting pushed through it. Certain machines will literally start to just break themselves apart if they're not made well. Like this level of machine coming from China or something, it'll literally shake itself apart in a year. So people are tacking it up and stuff like that. The linings are really the main consumable of these items. Both of them is the linings, and that's exactly what they're for, is to protect the part, help it sound dampening, so on and so forth. Another issue with this, and we touched on yesterday, is very easy to oversize a machine like this. People get very aggressive, and most of my parts are this big, but I do this one part that's this big, so I need a tub that's this big. Well, yeah, that kind of makes sense, but if you're only doing that part a couple times a year, you have to run that full machine, wasting all that media. So you might have, a machine like this might be 250 pounds of media. People have done this. They'll buy a machine 10 times the size, not thinking, oh yeah, no, now you got to put, 2,500 pounds of media in there. You save money because you bought it, from a scrapper or something like that, or you tried to make your own. Now you got to put $15,000 worth of media in it. So, call us first is what we always try to tell people before they make it.
Can you put a divider into baffles into a
Well,
one?
it's funny you asked that, Jim. Dividers can be added to the machines, actually.
One on the bottom left.
Right here. So that's a divider in a bowl.
Okay.
All right. So what that allows, now what you won't get in this is that cascading action around, but you have all these pockets are isolated. So you can absolutely do that in a bowl. You can do that in tubs too. So that's actually what these holes are here for too. Put a divider. And what the benefit is,
Save on your, I was thinking.
you can save on, it's
No, that's not why.
Okay.
It's about being able to keep parts or batches separate. The dividers are not robust enough to handle weight on one side and no weight on the other.
Well, I was thinking, like you mentioned, buying too big of a unit, right? So maybe they're doing big parts, and all of a sudden we do small parts, but they don't want to, their process changed. They don't want to put 3,000 pounds of media in. Could you put?
This is why you buy a barrel system. So instead of using a barrel this size, you put this barrel on there.
Yeah.
But you can't put a divider.
Yeah, you can't cut off half the equipment. You can't
No,
cut
not
it.
half.
You can't.
I would
No.
imagine half, but
It'll all go.
I was thinking a third in the middle. Like if you put two dividers, you just bring your walls in a little bit, right? So
That might actually work. Yeah,
Okay.
if you were to have it like
keep it
that.
in the middle,
and
not
keep it
on
in
one
center,
side
yeah.
or the other, but
That may work.
I was just thinking, but that's.
One of the other things you
I don't
can't
know.
do with the dividers is they are not watertight. So you can't do like polishing on one side and deburring on the other. So you gotta do the same process on both sides of the divider, but it's really designed to keep either parts separated or lots of parts, like lot numbers of parts separated.
What's also nice is you could actually tie two bowls together. All right, so what this is a bowl that's spinning around the top one that's doing its deburring process or its polishing process. And then it'll come out and then drop right into another bowl. This is a corncob dryer. So if parts need to be dried, you can put them right into a corncob dryer, and you can have it heated to speed it up and all kinds of stuff like that. Cool. So also tracks can be, like Steve was saying, tracks can be utilized to create a continuous process. So if you have small parts, small footprint, it'll just keep going around the same track. So you'll have, this might have a residence time of 40 minutes because it's going in. It's called like a racetrack style. Not that common, all right? Down here, this is pretty similar to the machine I was talking about. The machine I made was much prettier, better, I can imagine. But my machine is actually a little bit longer and mechanically separated, but the process is still absolutely the same. This is just a manual screen separator. But the parts come in, you see the end is all open, and then from there, parts drop, media drops down here, gets conveyed up, dropped back in. Just another way to do a continuous process. Tubs are around before bowls. So that's why you see kind of both. Barrel tumbles around before vibes.